So it's almost like a DNA shift that happens when you live in these physical environments of togetherness. There's something very potent and profound being in that environment. It is not the future that you're waiting for, it is the future you're creating. But what are you really going after? What are you chasing? What's your curiosity?
Hi everyone. Hi Anita. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Anita is, I was here 2 months ago and they left the city and your voice still in my mind. Your
I'm
voice,
glad.
Yeah.
I'm glad I was very effective in brainwashing you.
You Anita, for me, you are like one of the references here in the Valley. I will let you present yourself, and we're gonna share together, having some conversation about the Valley, about a lot of things that entrepreneur can live here in the Valley. We'll ask you some of them,
Yep.
and if you can share like your vision from it, gonna be really great.
Awesome. Again, hi everyone. Great to be here again. Glad that you're still in SF. I'm Anita Varavata. I'm a early stage investor and a builder. We are a venture studio and we build in the enterprise AI space and also very involved in the deep tech environment and been here for a decade, almost 10 years in Silicon Valley. So yeah, super excited and I am super biased. I think it's one of the best places on earth right now. So
It's true. And Anita, last time I saw you, it was on another hacker house. How was it to build in Hacker House here? Can you explain me more about the Hacker House vision, why in SF it's so efficient, and your vision for this, for example?
Again, hacking is a mindset and also a culture, but also the way you live here. It's a builder mindset at the end of the day, right? So you're a whole bunch of people similarly minded, chasing, wanting to solve some problem or the other, gather together, kind of co-live, right? It's not, of course, it definitely helps on the affordability front because Silicon Valley is quite expensive, particularly when you're getting started and then you want to be prudent with your finances. But that's really not the main reason why you would live in a hacker house. Hacker house is where people are so driven and want to beat the status quo, disrupt, want to dream big and be bold, gather together and they're kind of building together. So there's a lot of learning when you're living with similar people on the same journey. There's like exponential opportunity to learn, make mistakes together, learn from each other, and then rapidly prototype your ideas, validate them, and the community that you're surrounded by. It is a massive boost to your path of whatever you want to achieve. So it's that camaraderie, but the brain trust, the hive mind, all comes together in a very organic way, but also suddenly makes you more exponential in the way it alters the way you think about things. It alters the way you actually approach a problem. You're challenged in so many ways because it's kind of in a way building in public. What I mean by building in public is, like we're right now in Hacker House. So like 5 tables here, 5 people are building. You're kind of building more openly. And if you run into a problem, you can immediately go hash it out with somebody in the middle of the night too, in the evening or morning, it doesn't matter, because everyone's obsessed here on the same exact journey. And I think there's something very potent and profound being in that environment that completely accelerates your own outcomes. And almost it redefines how you want to solve the problem and what problems you really want to take on. And even if you're being very conservative, it suddenly makes you more bolder and more risk-taking. So it's almost like a DNA shift that happens when you live in these physical environments of togetherness, but everyone's on their own path of realizing their own potential.
So true. I heard this morning actually that one of the biggest startup in the world, like in the acceleration term, Lovable, if you heard about it, and Perplexity too, was working on this desk.
Exactly. Yeah, this is also a very special one. This particular house where we are, it's the AGA house in San Francisco, started by Jeremy Nixon. Again, a really brilliant guy. Early on, like even during the pandemic, took on the space in Hillsborough, another AGI house. But again, the main thing is like, hey, what is the true future? It is not the future that you're waiting for, it is the future you're creating. So it's a very, very bold vision on how you are experimenting your way through the architecting of that future. And yeah, this space has seen like some amazing folks go through. Again, this is the pace we're talking about, right? Couple of years and suddenly a multi-billion-dollar unicorns coming out, because it's a very different journey that you're on, and it's a massive accelerant coming through Hacker House and what it teaches you.
And in all your, like you said, 10 years here, you saw a lot of things. Can you share us some story about what you saw, for example, in Hacker House, or how like this billion company are created? Like some facts from
like
it.
I've lived in a couple myself. I wouldn't necessarily call them a pure hacker house, but a founder's home. So I was part of another founder's home called SU Villa, which is in SU's in short stands for Singularity University, which I'm part of for many years as an alumni. And we had this house in Woodside in California, Atherton first and then Woodside in California, which is part of the Mid-Peninsula region, between Palo Alto and San Francisco, where it was a massive kind of like a mansion, and then I think 10 to dozen of us actually lived together. Again, everyone's a founder or part of a rapidly growing startup, or inception stage, kind of getting their company off the ground. So everyone's a founder, and we lived together for I think 2 to 3 years together, and went through the journey. Again, there was an amazing robotics company that came out called Fellow Robotics by Marco. He's actually right now with A16Z, and he continues to be a builder. He's a serial builder and entrepreneur, a brilliant guy. We had another company that was really in the biotechnology and then synthetic biology space. And Valentina, she was actually part of the founding team that started Organ Alliance, because when you have shortage of organs, how do you really solve shortage of organs? Because most people die if you don't get for a transplant an organ that actually matches you in the right time, in the right environment. So how do you take on that kind of a problem, but approach both from a technology standpoint, but also synthetic biology standpoint? So again, this is the next wave of technologies and how you can apply that foundationally will change the status quo of, do you only rely on humans to give you organ, or there are other methods where I can use my own stem cells and then harvest the organs and then grow them in a lab and then put it back because there's no rejection. Again, that's also a technology, right? So it's not one or the other technology, from robotics to 3D printing. In fact, another 3D printing company that came out, Authentiz, which was another SU alumni, he didn't really live in our founder's home, but again, based out of London, but he would basically every time he comes, stays, because again, it's all the same crew that believes in singularity and then kind of almost building things backwards and solving. So in a way, all fronts are on, right? Like from space companies to biotechnology companies to AI companies, clearly 3D printing companies, nanotech, I mean, you name it. Right now, of course, an entire AGI, which is we're an AGI house in San Francisco. So AGI, but also super intelligence. So we're already beginning to think and figure out, okay, what is digital super intelligence going to look like? And then, so this is what you're going to take on the next, right? So ideas are not just about what I see as a problem, but okay, if this is where we are, like, what do you want to architect the next, and can you be part of that architecture layer or solve for the current environment and then add to the technology stack, or make it more feasible and available and build applications, right? So again, it's all on.
In a part of this evolution, and I saw it like a real open one, and we are going to make crazy and magic things. I'm not sure, but for me, like perhaps 70% of the rest of the world are afraid about what are coming. You just give us some example about growing this organ and this kind of thing. Where is the limit?
I think one has to, even today there are no limits.
Okay.
Limits are arbitrary lines made up either by policy or, of course, there's scientific laws, laws of physics prevent. Those are the real lines, right? If you think about like science and the application and then advancement of science and what's feasible that can create is by and large is driven by the societal systems and our policy systems and regulatory systems that we create to prevent. Again, at the end of the day, all of this is to ensure a vulnerable is not taken advantage or exploited. So as a result of that small minority, oftentimes we also thwart the potential of the majority, because we don't even obviously want a single person to be violated. because we do attach a very high value to human life. But now the main question is, what is human life? What is human? Is a fundamental question we have to ask over and over again today, because we are one biological system. We have other sentient systems that we're also building, other intelligent systems that we're building, other thinking machines that we're building, and other organisms and species that we're kind of also printing. Means I can print stem cells in a lab to grow organs, right? Means today, if even if you let's take the most controversial limit, the arbitrary limit is, can you create a human in a lab? Right? That is almost like antithesis to almost many belief systems around the world, because we think the only feasibility of another human life to come about is when you put two humans together, and then of course a male and a female. Biology that can lead to, or we can do the IVF process, a surrogate process. There are many other methods if you can't conceive. But the woman, that's basically you're bringing the parental, DNA, and the embryo, basically the ovaries and then sperms, and then which is kind of how most of the life is created when it comes to human life. But what if that is not going to cut it, and there could be another way of making life happen, right? So in this case, we're talking about a human life. It can be an elephant, it can be an octopus, it can be, again, octopus is also now, UK I think classified octopus as a sentient being. So that also raises all kinds of questions. Okay, if it's sentient, would you eat another sentient being? We still eat a lot of animals anyway. Like if you think about majority of our human consumption of food is actually animal.
Yeah.
So why isn't there a limit on that? If you were to start thinking about limits, it's like, okay, at what point they said, okay, it's okay for humans to eat another creature, but why can't a human create another creature? So most of the questions begin to kind of fall short of logic to some degree. Of course, there has to be guardrails and methods in which we want to do, because very quickly things can go down a wrong path, But at the end of the day, technology is neutral. It's how we utilize technology. So do you take a position on like stalling and pausing technology development and scientific development, or rather, no, we need to accelerate regardless and very quickly change our systems to match a method to start putting controls as things progress?
And for you, the next revolution, right now we are living the AGI, like you said, and the superintelligence, we are all believing that it will come, but for you, the next, perhaps, next bit on the next revolution, do you think it's going to be like, I don't know, perhaps cellular, perhaps?
Basically, they're all different paths, right? So one is just the biological augmentation itself is one modality, where it's like I'm this. When I drink a protein shake, I'm basically augmenting myself, right? When you took a penicillin shot, you've actually already intervened in your natural biological evolution. Otherwise, a virus attack would have killed us. So if you were to think about historically, if you purely leave it to natural selection process, way of how evolution happens, evolutionary biology, then cells have its own cycle, and then they can decay, and then a disease accelerates the cellular decay, right? Means one disease would have basically ended your life back in the day. But of course, we would laugh and say, hey, if you just die of fever, like why would you die of fever? I'll just take a Tylenol or some paracetamol that's just gonna like stall it. But there were times in the past where literally that would just kill you, right? A cholera just killed people, a plague just killed people, but we survived COVID. Sure. Right? So means we've already been augmenting, in some cases people call it biohack, but not just my basic biohack, but significantly altering and intervening in our own lifespan of how long you would have lived otherwise for a biological system. Now we're going to take it to another notch.
This is interesting.
Right? Because can I ensure before you're born you won't even get a disease, so I can address that before you're even born, at the fetus level or at the cell embryo level. And then means you will not even get the disease. So what does that mean? Today is like, oh, I'm going to stay healthy because eventually something's going to attack my system and I have to defend, and then cellular decay can kick in. So disease is an accelerant of your decay process.
True.
Because again, it depends on how severity of the disease. It actually obviously it weakens your organs, and then very quickly you go down the hill. We are looking at hey, can we actually beat the very odds of our biological existence? On one layer, we're talking about the intelligence, which is digital, nothing to do with my biology as a system. Can we completely bypass biology as a system of intelligence, and that can unlock the next layer? Other one is can I also augment my biology, essentially creating another species entirely that has the longevity, which is not average 100-year lifespan that we're looking at. Because even though we measure for a 100-year lifespan, out of the almost close to 8 billion people on the planet, your average is probably 70. You'll make it. But that just doesn't seem, we barely make it. Out of that, your first 15 years of childhood, and then last probably you're struggling, means effectively you're really doing anything really highly productive and realizing things are less than 30, 40 years. That just seems like a very, very short amount of time. And all our systems are built around the fact that you will live only so long. That is the status quo. What if that fundamentally changes?
Yeah.
Instead of me 100, 150, if you do 150, can you do 1,000? Means, what does it even mean to save for your retirement? What does it mean to be married to only one person the rest of your life? What does it even mean to be legacy and my progeny as to how I want to have children? Because children are seen as a part of, it's my legacy I'm leaving behind. If I'm not going anywhere, do I want something else to leave behind?
Yeah.
So would you even want to have children? Even if you were to have children, would you have the children the same way that you did? Almost everything. And what does religion mean? What does cycle of life mean? What does heaven and hell mean? Again, these are very deep-rooted conditioning of not only our psychological systems to our conditioning, our biological system, our the way we operate as societies. Everything is up for.
Wow. I really like to talk to you, Anita. We can stay like this, hour and hour. Let's keep it in the surface. For me, I'm a young one with I'm younger with some ambition. Came here to SF for a couple of days, perhaps staying more or not. But how we begin from scratch? I came here. Let's say I have no skills. I have no hard skills, more hard skill, right? If you begin from scratch right now with all this actual innovation and technology and what we are seeing in the future, give me the three top skills that I need.
There is no three top skills, right? The fact is you're here sitting in SF. Means you already figured out a way to be in the heartbeat of the most, I would choose the words very carefully here, right? It's not privilege, but to be part of the 1% of the 1% of the 1%, you're technically the most privileged in terms of access, in terms of what's going on, exposure to what's happening, and the fact that there's internet. It is not about what you have, it is what are you doing? What do you want to chase? No one's going to tell you what to do. There's no guideline or a blueprint saying, hey, you're going to come do this, I'm going to handhold you. If you're hand-holding, I don't think you're really there, right? It's not about someone telling you, it's despite all the odds, what are you going to do? But there are actually no odds right now. You have a smartphone, you have access to the internet. Where is your curiosity? There's nothing you can't find that is free, literally online. If you don't know, it is no longer waiting for a skill. You're the only hurdle to your own skill building. But what are you really going after? What are you chasing? What's your curiosity? What is your dream? What is the vision? What is the obsession? What is your passion? Only you can figure out, right? It is not someone telling you. Everyone comes and has to chase their own. Because it's your journey, it is not someone else's journey.
It's funny because I heard somewhere between your 8 to 12 years old, there you build your path or you build your dream. You will say between your 8 and 12, you will say, when I will be older, this is what I want to do. Is it true that we from the beginning we live with something inside us, and some people find it and other not yet? Is it true that it's in the childhood that we have this kind of?
No, it's not about the child, right? At the end of the day, what is your dream? It's like what you aspire for, right? So if everything you've seen and exposure you have, only you can decide what you aspire for. It's your aspiration, it's not my aspiration. In that journey of trying to fulfill your aspiration, there could be a lot of things that you may learn, you don't know, you seek advice, like, you come in, but it's your initiative, it's not someone else's initiative, right? And how desperately, how obsessively you want that to happen. That's your dream. Dream is like, oh my God, if living and breathing, the only thing I want to live for is that's your obsession, it's your passion. So if you don't have that, then start figuring that out as soon as possible. Right? Because otherwise, you can get a job, you can, again, all of those are there, but that's not the point, right? Like literally, the world is the oyster right now. The tools are almost free. ChatGPT is actually free for a lot of people. It have one of the best thinking models out there available to me at the most for a cost of $20 per month. If you're not going to utilize for your own, I think that's on you. It's on nobody else's. So it's like, then what are you looking for? What are you waiting for? Because that is not the real hustle. The hustle is really about, there are really no obstacles, there are really no odds. It is like you have to navigate, but all the tools are there. So if you just don't want to use the tools, then no one can really kind of drag you into making it happen, because it is not my calling to do that. I'm going to go after what I want to do. So it's literally about me and me alone. Means whatever you want to do, it's you and you alone. It's like, out of all the things, what will you, if there are 10 options given to you, you may reject all 10 because you will still go on that path. That's your journey.
What about the people that, all right, everybody can say I have a dream, but some of them said, I had a dream, but I get married and get kids. Others, I said, I prefer to stay with my family.
Right? I mean, at the end of the day, it's not like your family said don't do it. In fact, you have a family, they're very supportive. You just don't want to do it. That's your problem. It's not your family's. So don't blame your family and your circumstances. That's just an excuse. It's like, if you can sit and watch a movie on Netflix for an hour, you just chose to watch Netflix movie for an hour rather than doing something about it. So that's your problem. It is no one else's problem. I don't think family and other circumstances should be even seen as an excuse in this equation. Because if you really want, your family will be behind you.
What about people that they work so much that they burn out? They're obsessed about their dream. And to get this dream, they need to work, they need to do a lot of sacrifice, and they know they will do it. But after 3 years, 4 years, they burn out.
But remember, sacrifice comes into play when it's not what I want to do, right? If I have to do something that's not really my interest, then it feels like work. When you're chasing your passion, it doesn't feel like work. Yes, it's hard work, but it's not work for me. 18 hours, yes, it's going to be physically tiring, but the gratification is like, I'm doing what I love to do. Simple as that. So when you do what you love to do, it is not work.
So if you burn
doesn't
out,
mean it's not grueling, doesn't mean it's not going to be physically challenging, doesn't mean it's going to be mentally, and you're probably doing trade-offs. But I wouldn't do anything any other way. That is the ultimate gratification.
that sounds really great.
Easy way is not passion. Like a passion is like the rigor still exists.
All in.
It's like 100%, 200%. Because I can't think of doing anything else. Like if I wake up, that's all I will think about doing it. Nothing more, nothing less. Otherwise, I'll just choose a cushy job, be somewhere else. But that's not what motivates me. That's not what I'm driving for. That is not what my curiosity. I'm chasing my curiosity. I'm chasing my passion. I'm chasing what I want to do. And literally only you. Today, that's why there are absolutely no excuses to choose to be ignorant. There are absolutely no excuses anymore. Choose to make excuses. Because come on, you have an internet. Ask a question, there are 1,000 answers. You can navigate your way through every question that you have. If I don't know, you can now have ChatGPT and any other reasoning machine that you can chat with and say, if I don't know, teach me how to do it, it'll teach you. So you have absolutely no excuse. Then you just, that's not what you're interested. You say you're interested, but actually not. Because if you really are obsessed with something, you can't even sleep. You're just consumed by that. It just drives you, that's like your oxygen.
Wow, I like it, Anita. It's like one of it. Do you have some call to action? I don't know if you do like if you have like a newsletter, or perhaps you are doing some conferences, or where people can find you.
I mean, you can find me on LinkedIn, or
Right.
I don't post a lot. I'm on a lot of socials, but I don't post a lot. But I'm also on X. It's at Anita Vadavata, ANITHA VADAVATHA. That's my Twitter X handle. And then, my LinkedIn profile are the
Right.
two best ways to connect. But yeah, so, I mean, come on, like, no more. It's it's literally free. Doesn't cost you a dime to get information and start building whatever you want to build immediately.
And your word are still in my mind. You said me go bold or go home, right?
Again, I do recognize that, at the end of the day, people still have to live as an income source, but you don't live to generate income. You live to fulfill a dream. That's your ultimate purpose, right? I can obviously have to figure out like how to stay alive, eat food, like put some shelter, whatever that is. Figure out whatever that is. If you have to like take 3 jobs, that's fine. But ultimately, what's your massive transformative purpose that you want to fulfill in your own life, or the way you want to change the world in the way you want to do it? It's only you, because you are the architect. You truly are the architect right now of anything. It's no longer someone telling you and solving your problems. If you massively see a problem and you can't stop thinking about it, just go do something about it. That's your path.
Perfect. I like it. Thank you so much, Anita. It was really great. Thank you. Thank you so much.